Seated on the dais with me, Shri Abhijit Kishore, Chairperson of COAI, Rahul Vats, Vice Chairperson of COAI, Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochar, Director General of COAI, Shri Pradeep Gupta, and all dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, present here on this warm morning when we discuss networks, data, digital electrons moving from one particle to the other. It indeed is an honor for me to be at Digicom 2025. And it's only apt that Digicom 2025 sets the pace, starting with this very diverse, immersive conclave, which will cover an extremely wide range of topics. As I trace the evolution of our digital and telecom landscape over the last decade or so, India's telecom sector was like, if you will, a buffering video full of great content, but with long pauses. In the last decade, all that has changed. As the speakers before me have spoken this morning, India today is setting the pace in the world. A dynamic sector, an instrumental sector to our nation's development, our nation's growth, contributing close to about 7% of GDP, and growing at a CAGR of between 14 to 16%. And this CAGR that I'm talking about is a decadal CAGR. And therefore, what makes it very clear is that our telecom sector is important not only to a sectoral growth, but to our nation's development. और अतिशयोक्ति नहीं होगी अगर मैं कहूँ, it won't be an exaggeration if I say that probably in the years to come will be critical to the world's growth. Now let me give you a few examples of that. Imagine today a young man or a young girl in one of the tribal districts of Orissa or Madhya Pradesh, having a smartphone in her hand, being able to access classes digitally over OFC and towers from an international institution. What that does to empower 140 crore people, not only for their growth, but for the growth of the nation. And it won't be an exaggeration to say for the growth of the globe. Today we house 18% of the world's population. We not only enjoy a democratic dividend, but we also enjoy a demographic dividend. 70% of India is below the age of 35. We're talking about 98 crore people, 3 times the population of the United States of America, twice the population of a combined Europe. And today, capital has become fungible. Capital has become a commodity. It is human resource and ideas that are the true intellectual property that bring about paradigm shifts in the way that we live our lives. A farmer, through his smartphone and the 5G intelligent villages that we are thinking of building, we've taken 10 5G intelligent villages across India to start with. Not only checking the prices of his current crops on the national or the international market, but through the 5G network, understanding when it is required to irrigate his fields, thereby reducing his input costs in terms of power, when his crops require pesticides, and therefore using the Kaizen system or the JIT system, thereby conserving the nutrient capability of the soil. So telecom has become embedded like a chip in terms of gearing up productivity, instilling knowledge, leveraging capability across every single citizen. And as Kochar Sahab said, it's no longer a vertical, it's now become a horizontal. And Kochar Sahab is not only a horizontal, but it is a value additive horizontal across every spectrum. The third example I want to give you is Our Lady of Ceremonies, who talked about my other responsibility as Minister of Donor, the Northeast region. Today, my Queen Pineapples of Tripura, due to the vibrancy of our networks, are not getting sold in India. They are getting sold directly to buyers in Germany. My king chilies of Nagaland are going directly to Dubai. And therefore, what is our system doing? Our system is disintermediating the intermediary, thereby giving more value in the hands of the direct producers. So we are a value additive industry. We bring value across every single domain. And today, the vibrancy of our networks, the fact that we have 117 crore subscribers, the growth of our networks, and I think these are the topics that we also must discuss in forums like this. The value additive capability of telecom. And therefore, the three pillars that have brought about this change. Our policy frameworks have been completely revolutionized, making them the bedrock and the foundation of this digital revolution. our ease of doing business capability has brought about Navachar and innovation across multiple spectrums. And finally, our digital connectivity is uplifting livelihoods. The examples that I gave you today. And therefore, if you look at how India has transformed under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it is this telecom sector today that is powering our jam trinity. 531 million people that were out of the banking networks today have electronic bank accounts. 531 million. It is the engine behind our UPI, our Bhim UPI app. Last year alone, 2024, 172 billion transactions. 172 billion. And how much was transacted? 247 lakh crores was transacted through the UPI app. That's the economic engine that telecom and IT are providing. And suffice to say that it is also the backbone of our thriving startup system. Today we have 177,000 startups in India. We are the second largest startup ecosystem in the world. A country that boasted only of 1 or 2 unicorns in 2014, today has 118 unicorns in India. So it's not a transformation, it's a leap that has occurred in this past decade under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that can only happen in a country that has an evangelist who can see the future. I remember when I was Civil Aviation Minister, the first thing he told me when I took over, and I'm talking about 2021, 4 years ago, he said, I want you to make India the drone hub of the world by 2030. When there are only 5 drone companies in India. तो भारत को एक शिल्पकार की जरूरत थी और प्रधानमंत्री जी के रूप में जो शिल्पकार भारत को मिला है, along with 140 crore Indians and people such as all of you seated in this room, are making that transformation possible, ladies and gentlemen. And that transformation, I believe, stands on 5 very key pillars as far as our horizontally vertical sector is concerned. The first is our policy landscape. And the Prime Minister has been very clear. Telecom will drive the country's economic progress. And that's why we must convert in telecom red tapeism to red carpet. The 6 advisory groups that I have set up for each vertical within my industry, from TSPs to manufacturing OEMs, to ISPs, to academia, across the board. My job is to make sure that I look at your pain points and resolve your pain points so you can chart my country's future. And the huge change that has come about in the right-of-way issues. A simple step that Prime Minister had evolved of putting it onto the Gati Shakti Sanchar portal. Looking at it from a whole of government approach. Not working in silos, not protecting our turfs, but looking at India's turf. And look at the transformation that it has brought about. From 71,000 pending applications 3 years ago, today we are down to only 3,800 pending applications. 3 lakh applications have been cleared, 20% within a single fortnight. This is the transformation that happens when government moves from being a regulator to its new role of being a facilitator. Because in your success lies the country's success. And a similar change in the Telecommunications Act that was passed in Parliament last year, where we've not only gotten rid of our old colonial laws, but brought in a cutting-edge, new administrative act that will pave the way for the future of India, an India of efficiency, an India of innovation, and an India of inclusivity. So the first pillar was one of policy. The second pillar is one of technology. And I've said this many times, that we have followed the world in 4G. We are marching with the world in 5G. But with all the IP sitting here today in this room, I have full confidence to say that India will lead the world in 6G. We've laid out the fastest rollout in the world's history with regard to 5G. And I must compliment those on the dais and those seated before me. It's only because of your Herculean efforts that it's been possible. 22 months, 4.5 lakh BTSs, 99% of districts covered, 82% of population covered, a Herculean feat. And at the same time, we said that we will pioneer our own technology. A huge challenge. There are only 4 countries in the world that have that IP. But the Prime Minister had a commitment, he had a resolve. Atmanirbhar Bharat. विकसित भारत का रास्ता आत्मनिर्भरता के आधार पर है. उस संकल्प को सिद्धि में परिवर्तित करना है. It took us a little over 2 years. But look at the beauty of government and private sector collaboration. C-DOT built the core. Tejas Networks built the RAN. TCS was the SI system integrator. And as I speak to you today, 70,000 towers have been commissioned, with our target of 100,000 towers for BSNL by May, June of this year. Our own domestic technology. We are the 5th country in the world only to have that. And we will move rapidly from 4G to 5G. At the same time, the Bharat 6G Alliance, government, educational institutions, private sector, working day and night. Our commitment is that we will contribute 10% of the 6G patents to the world. It's still in the making. It will take a couple of years for ITU to come out with the norms. But India is very much a part of that norm-making system for the first time in her existence. So that's the change that the technology paradigm has brought. Not only to India, but to the world. The third pillar is the ease of doing business that I talked about. We've rolled out a very ambitious PLI scheme. In the last 2.5, 3 years, we've done close to about 70,000 crore worth of production. Close to about 25,000 jobs created. And a country that had telecom product exports of only 8,400 crores 10 years ago, today is exporting over 25,000 crores worth of telecom products. $25 billion in terms of FDI. 32% CAGR in terms of domestic production, consumption. And it is my hope and my dream that India by 2030 transforms herself into a telecom product nation. I am in conversations as we speak with our telco majors, our OEMs, to see if there are possibilities where we can set up a telecom manufacturing zone. Bring that ecosystem to India. Just like we've done in the auto sector. Just like what has happened in what could have never happened before. An aircraft manufacturing company setting up its final assembly line in India. Airbus has set up its C295 production facility in India. Has set up its aquatorial helicopter production facility in India. Today we are setting up fabs in Gujarat, in Assam. And so I believe that even a TMZ is an idea whose time has certainly come. The fourth pillar is one of innovation. And this is where our startups are extremely key to the growth of even our sector, our telecom sector. 1.7 lakh startups in India, creating almost 20 lakh jobs. And I believe that e-commerce, edtech, fintech, all will run on our engine in the days to come. And therefore, if you talk about e-commerce, that industry will go to $325 billion in India by 2030. And our digital economy, which today is at close to about $537 billion will go to $1 trillion by 2030. Now, therein lies a huge potential for us in the telecom sector. The final pillar is one of digital connectivity. And Rahul alluded to that in his address. Innovation, implementation, and inclusivity is the key to success from a digital transformation perspective. And today, the fact that our broadband users have gone from 60 million 10 years ago to almost 942 million today. Our broadband speeds have gone up 10x. Our consumption has gone from 10 GB to 22 GB, one of the highest in the world, as Rahul was saying. On the back of National Broadband Mission 1.0, we are now putting in place NBM 2.0, where we will connect 2.7 lakh villages in India digitally with OFC or with other media. In the last 10 years, we've gone from 10 lakh route kilometers to almost 41 lakh route kilometers in terms of OFC fiber. And therefore, that transformation is very key to propelling India as an economic power. I am very confident, ladies and gentlemen, that as our sector moves forward, under the stewardship of all of you seated here in this room, our primacy will be and should be to have every citizen connected, every community empowered, to lead India into a digitally empowered future. And as the Prime Minister has always said, this is the time. Yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. Thank you very much.